The kings of the Amazon. For centuries, the Amazon was written off as a mosquito-infested swamp, an unforgiving wilderness where explorers either vanished forever or swore they had glimpsed a city of gold no one could find. Even modern archaeology once mocked the Amazon, insisting that no ancient people could possibly build a civilized society in this green hell of insects, venomous ants, and jaguars. But the truth left them red-faced. Hidden beneath dense jungle canopies, beneath vines, legends, and giant anacondas, lie the ruins of a civilization so advanced it is rewriting Amazonian history faster than archaeologists can mutter, "Oh, we're screwed." Thanks to LiDAR, the X-ray of archaeology researchers uncovered a vast urban network built by the Casarabe culture, right in the middle of the Llanos de Mojos region of Bolivia. This was the very area archaeologists once dismissed as too swampy, too poor in nutrients to sustain a real civilization. Yet lasers have now revealed 26 ancient settlements, including 6 large cities and 2 mega-urban centers, Kotoka and Landivar. These sites were so massive, the research team needed helicopters, lasers, and maybe even a therapy camel just to process the data. What did these enormous cities contain? Pyramids, ceremonial platforms, sunken causeways stretching for miles, and structures aligned with the stars. It seems their builders followed a cosmic blueprint, laying out sacred architecture in harmony with celestial positions. Lead researcher Heiko Prumers stated bluntly, "This discovery completely ends the idea that the pre-Columbian Western Amazon was sparsely populated. In other words, the Amazon was once densely inhabited and may have been more prosperous than today." For decades, archaeology swore that Amazonian soil was too poor to support large-scale farming, let alone city building. They were so certain they staked their reputations on it. But the Casarabe of the past seemed to reply, "Hold our quinoa." Archaeological evidence shows they didn't just build cities. They farmed, fished, hunted, engineered monumental structures, and managed floodplains as if they were playing Animal Crossing with the powers of God. The scale of their projects is staggering. Kotoka alone required moving about 20 million cubic feet of earth, 10 times the volume the Tiwanaku culture mobilized for their famed Akapana pyramid. Clearly, these were no amateurs. They were master engineers, practically remaking the rainforest itself. The Amazon has gone from being a blank spot on the map of ancient urbanism to one of history's best-kept secrets. And this is only the beginning. Researchers believe the jungle still hides hundreds, maybe thousands of undiscovered sites. If Kotoka and Landivar are the crown jewels, who knows, beneath the canopy might lie a palace, or a pyramid that makes Machu Picchu look like a guest house. As LiDAR technology improves, discoveries like this will only multiply. In regions where even machetes can't cut through the vines, LiDAR can scan from above, mapping what the human eye cannot see. And remember, what's been surveyed so far is only a fragment of Bolivia's rainforest. Vast swaths of Amazonia remain untouched in Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, and Brazil. Colombia, especially, has barely been explored. Its southern forests, near towns like Mocoa, could hold some of the most spectacular archaeological revelations of the century if scientists can haul in their helicopter plus laser combo. A culture in the shadows. An ancient statue from a mysterious culture, a dark cave in a remote corner of the world, and a secret too big to hide. Deep in the dusty depths of Damjili Cave in Azerbaijan, a place whose walls have witnessed more drama than a Netflix crime doc, archaeologists discovered a tiny artifact holding an enormous mystery. It's small, it's carved from sandstone. It looks like it's been through one too many wash cycles, and it has no face. It is a human-shaped figurine, or something resembling human. This strange little artifact, unimaginatively labeled Unit 5.2 by archaeologists, turned out to be the oldest human figurine ever found in this region of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, for anyone rusty with geography, is a small nation wedged between Georgia, Russia, and Iran. This figurine dates back to around 6,400 BC. Could it belong to the era before the Great Flood? According to the Japanese and Azerbaijani research team, the carvings on the figurine are a goldmine of symbolic detail, reflecting the moment when humanity was shifting from hunting and gathering to farming life. Dr. Yoshihiro Nishiaki emphasized that its style is unlike later Neolithic art. It seems unique, crafted by an unknown artistic culture. In size, it's hardly imposing, about 2 inches tall and half an inch wide, a true pocket model of the Middle Stone Age. Though it lacks eyes, nose, and mouth, it radiates character. Its head is etched with vertical lines, perhaps hair, and a horizontal band that might represent a headband or cap. Beyond the figurine, archaeologists also found remnants of stone hearths, bones, and chipped stone tools, the standard starter kit for cave life, around 6,000 BC. No one knows who these cave dwellers were. They lived during a time of transformation for humanity. The figurine's design is proof. Whoever carved it could be called the Michelangelo of their age, perhaps the most renowned artist in the prehistoric cave world before the flood. The disappearance of the Anasazi. Thousands of years before Columbus set foot in the Americas, the Anasazi ruled the American Southwest. Though not as famous as the Maya and without monumental ruins on the same scale, they were just as sophisticated and advanced. The Anasazi built massive ceremonial structures with stone ceilings weighing up to 90 tons, and they carved giant stairways into cliffs using only hammers and stone tools. Their trade routes reached deep into the south, evidenced by rare bird bones from Mexican forests found in their settlements. They may have emerged around 300 AD, but by 1275, all construction ceased. 25 years later, the population abandoned the region. There were no signs of attack, no obvious enemies. The most reasonable theory is that severe drought brought crop failure, water shortages, malnutrition, civil strife, and finally societal collapse. Tiger's Nest Monastery. Perched in Bhutan like something out of an Asian fairy tale, the Tiger's Nest Monastery clings to a cliffside in one of the most secluded nations on Earth. It's not just difficult to reach Bhutan once there, you must endure a grueling mountain climb with dizzying views along the way. The monastery sits at an elevation of about 9,000 feet above the Paro Valley. According to legend, it was founded in the 8th century by the Buddhist master Guru Rinpoche. He was carried to the mountaintop by one of his disciples, who had transformed into a tigress. There, they meditated in a cave for exactly 3 years, 3 months, 3 days, and 3 hours. When their retreat ended, the cave became one of Bhutan's holiest sites. Still, it wasn't until the late 17th century that a monastery was built, directly at the entrance to that legendary cave. The Kizil Caves. The Kizil Cave complex in China, nearly 2,000 years old, is considered one of the first large-scale Buddhist projects in the region. Monks began carving them around the 3rd century AD, during the Tocharian kingdom. Over the next 5 centuries, they dug 236 caves into a massive cliffside. Some caves were simple monk quarters, bare rooms with no decoration. Others were grand shrines, adorned with murals and statues depicting Buddhist mythology. Today, many of those murals no longer remain in place. Most were removed and distributed to museums across China for preservation. Remarkably, the art shows almost no Chinese influence, except in just 2 of the 236 caves, which bear traces linked to the Tang dynasty. This reveals how ancient and isolated the community truly was. It wasn't until the 8th century, with the expansion of the Silk Road, that outside influences arrived. Only then did the monks encounter Greeks, Muslims, and even representatives from China, shattering centuries of isolation. The decline of the Etruscans. Before Rome rose to power, the Etruscans were the dominant civilization in Italy, flourishing from the 8th century BC. By the 3rd century BC, they had been completely absorbed into Rome. The Etruscans loved feasts, art, and luxury, while Rome thrived on conquest. They left behind very few written records, and most of what we know comes from Roman sources, which are hardly reliable. Tomb frescoes show that the Etruscan city-states were often at war with each other, plagued by disunity. When the south was attacked by the Sicilians, the north did not come to their aid. Later, the Celts stormed down from the north, and Rome advanced from the south, leaving the Etruscans caught between multiple fronts. Still, they were not as weak as Roman accounts suggest. In the 6th century BC, the Etruscan king, Lars Porsena, attacked Rome itself. For more than 200 years, wars for control of Italy raged on. Eventually, the Etruscans allied with Rome against the Gauls in 225 BC, and over time, they were absorbed into the Roman world. The Celtic underworld. According to ancient Celtic legend, Contra Gwaelod was once a vast land stretching from the edge of Cardigan Bay in present-day Wales far into the sea. It was ruled by a man named Gwyddno Garanhir from his splendid palace. Although the city sat slightly below sea level, it was protected by towering sea walls. The ocean could not invade unless something catastrophic happened, and legend says it did. One stormy night, a spring tide surged high enough to break through the sea gate, drowning the city. All its people were forced inland, and Cantre'r Gwaelod was swept away like a sandcastle under a crashing wave. Most historians dismiss this as nothing more than a Welsh folktale. But could the sunken city have truly existed? Could the shattered seawall still lie beneath the waters of Cardigan Bay, waiting to be found? Unfortunately, until further research is done, no one can say for certain. The forgotten colony of Appalachia. Forget campfire ghost stories. Appalachia's darkest mystery isn't what you think. The misty Appalachian mountains have long been steeped in legend. The trees whisper secrets, the wind hums ghost tales. No mountains in America carry such an eerie atmosphere, but here lies something stranger than any spirit or rumor. According to legend, a peculiar race of people once lived here, their skin so pale it seemed to glow under the moonlight. It sounds like a tale spun after too much moonshine. But no, this is the legend of the Mooneyed people, a tribe so white their large round eyes shone like full moons. They were said to have lived in Appalachia long before Europeans arrived. Around 1100 AD, the Cherokee moved into the southern Appalachians. But according to Billy Ray Palmer of the Cherokee County Historical Museum, the forests were not empty. The Cherokee encountered short, stocky, blue-eyed people who lived at night, fiercely territorial. Because of their moon-like eyes, the Cherokee called them moon-eyed people. They seemed especially sensitive to sunlight. What's strange is that the Cherokee were not the only ones with stories of ancient white people in North America. In the 14th century, a Welsh prince named Madoc was said to have sailed with 14 ships, leaving Britain and venturing into the Appalachian Mountains. Though the timelines don't line up perfectly, some scholars believe the moon-eyed people may have been descendants of Welsh voyagers who arrived centuries before Columbus. In 1803, Thomas Jefferson even mentioned Welsh Indians in his policy. Lewis and Clark, on their westward expedition, reported encounters with white-skinned natives near the Mississippi River. Could an ancient race of white people have once lived in America? If you look closely, the answer may surprise you. Across the southeastern United States, from Alabama to Georgia, massive stoneworks, walls, mounds, and mysterious fortifications have been attributed to the Mooneyed people. The most famous is a 260-meter-long stone wall at Fort Mountain State Park, resembling a clumsy Tetris game built by ancient engineers. Some believe it is the ruin of a prehistoric white culture in America. If the Mooneyed people truly existed in these foggy mountains, where did they go? Did they die out, vanish underground, or transform into reclusive pale hipsters hiding from sunlight in Asheville? No one knows for sure. Some even believe they never left, still lurking in the forests, living in secret caves beneath the earth. Would you dare to search for them? The Fortress of Cuelap. The Fortress of Cuelap is one of the most monumental structures in the Americas. Perched high in the Andes of Peru at nearly 9,000 feet, it was a stronghold filled with political buildings, religious centers, and military defenses. Inside its massive walls stood 420 stone houses where mountain dwellers lived. Archaeologists have uncovered murals, carvings, and geometric friezes at the site. The walls rise as high as 60 feet, built from enormous limestone blocks so massive it's hard to believe ancient people could transport them up a steep mountainside. The fortress belonged to the Chachapoya civilization, which emerged around 900 AD and thrived for 5 centuries. This mountain kingdom was home to roughly 300,000 people, mostly warriors, alongside merchants, farmers, and shamans. They were among the last kingdoms in the region to fall to the Spanish conquest in the 16th century. From then on, Cuelap was abandoned and eventually forgotten. The Moche civilization. Around 100 AD, the Moche civilization rose as the dominant cultural power in northern Peru, flourishing until about 700 AD. Then, they suddenly collapsed for reasons still unknown. The Moche may have been an empire or simply a powerful city-state. Scholars still debate it. They had organized systems in major cities and shared a common culture. They excelled in metallurgy, pottery, and agriculture. Yet their scattered population makes it hard to determine whether they were truly unified. There may have been a northern Moche with its own laws and capital, and a southern Moche with a different structure. They inhabited sites that are now ruins, such as the Huacas del Sol complex. The Moche were obsessed with art, but their art stirs controversy today. They fixated on themes of death and bodily fluids, creating pottery depicting urination, nasal mucus, blood, and even same-sex acts. They also glorified slavery, human sacrifice, and warfare. Many works vividly portray violence and brutality as integral to life. Around 700 AD, Moche art shifted heavily toward war motifs. They built more fortresses, suggesting major conflicts, possibly with outside powers. Some scholars believe a devastating El Niño event, combined with the volcanic winter of 536, helped destroy them. The fall of the Moche was likely the result of famine, disease, war, and death combined. The disappearance of the Vikings. The Viking Age began around 700 and ended in 1100 AD. But what happened to them after their golden age of raiding and conquest came to an end? The Vikings hailed from Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. In the 8th century, some upheaval drove them outward into the world, where they began exploring, trading, and settling new lands. They struck the coasts of Europe, chiefly Ireland, England, France, Scotland, and Russia, targeting defenseless monasteries for plunder. Unbound by Christianity, they had no fear of sacrilege, And they did not only take to the seas, many Viking bands trekked across Russia, raiding as far as Constantinople, even appearing in Iraq. They were also the first Europeans to settle in North America, reaching Canada about 1,000 years ago. Their first recorded raid was in the year 787, and they continued raiding sporadically until the formation of the Great Heathen Army in 865. That massive force was strong enough to challenge the Anglo-Saxon kings of England and even lay siege to Paris. The Vikings were never fully defeated. The Viking Age ended not because they lost, but because they had spread across Europe, gradually assimilating into larger communities. The Vikings never truly vanished. They left their genetic mark everywhere, and much of Europe today was shaped in part by them. Part 12. The Underwater Mysteries of Cuba. Graham Hancock is now one of the most prominent figures in the world of alternative science. He has written numerous books on the origins of humanity and recently stirred outrage among mainstream archaeologists with his Netflix series, Ancient Apocalypse. In one of his books, Graham mentioned mysterious sunken structures found around the world. All of them lie no deeper than 400 feet below sea level, except for one. Since the dawn of Homo sapiens, sea levels have never dropped below that mark. Which is why, when researchers Paulina Zalitsky and Paul Weinsweig discovered ruins submerged at a depth of 2,300 feet, mainstream scientists were instantly skeptical. If sea levels were never that low during human existence, how could there be a city at such depths? Some scientists suggest that tectonic activity may have dragged a city down into the abyss. Others put forward a bolder idea that it wasn't built by humans at all, but by another intelligent species that lived on Earth millions of years ago. And the strangest theory of all, that it was built by aquatic apes. The ruins were reportedly discovered in 2001 through sonar images. The researchers captured visuals of a complex of structures off the coast of Pinar del Rio, Cuba. Paulina and Paul, part of a Canadian expedition working with the Cuban government, never expected to stumble upon pyramids and stoneworks at such an impossible depth. When the discovery was announced, it sparked immediate controversy. The team returned with remote-operated equipment and captured additional sonar images that seemed to show artificial structures. But when they published the findings, mainstream scientists dismissed them outright. John Abbott, a senior editor at National Geographic, said the true nature of the ruins could not be confirmed until someone actually dove down to see them. Oceanographer Robert Ballard noted that reading sonar is like looking at an inkblot test. People often see what they want to see. The scientific consensus is that this city could not have been built by human hands. And yet, the sonar images still suggest that something resembling a city lies off the coast of Cuba. It is a true paradox. And ever since the original discovery in 2001, the site has all but vanished from discussion. The Forgotten Temple of Thailand. If there is one place I should talk more about on this channel, it's Thailand, the land of smiles, amazing food, and jungle-cloaked mountain temples. Deep in the thick forests of southern Thailand, where vines twist and insects rain, an expedition hacked its way through and uncovered something extraordinary. This story is entirely true, unlike John and his drone. It happened in Nakhon Si Thammarat, one of the most ancient and sacred provinces of Thailand, once a major trade hub along monsoon routes that shaped the rise and fall of kingdoms. In 2017, Phuom, a historian and jungle explorer along with his team, followed rumors of a hidden site. After years of searching, they reached a remote mountainside where they found stone walls, carved blocks, and countless relics. Phuom believes the site could be thousands of years old, possibly dating to the 6th century BC, the Iron Age, when Southeast Asia was becoming a bustling trade crossroads. If true, this ancient city predates even the Khmer Empire that built Angkor in Cambodia, which raises the question, who built it? Only about 5% of the area has been explored. The rest lies buried under dense jungle and landslide debris. Add to that the harsh climate and rugged terrain, and full excavation becomes nearly impossible. So, would you brave the sweltering heat and jungle creatures to search for an ancient mountain city? Or would you rather sit back in the air conditioning and watch it on a screen? Tambora. Once there was a mountain that touched the sky, Mount Tambora, towering more than 13,000 feet, icy, unpredictable, and quietly preparing for one of the most catastrophic finales in history. In 1815, Tambora erupted with unimaginable force. The blast was so massive it erased an entire civilization and threw the global climate into chaos, like losing everything in a single round of Monopoly. Compared to Tambora, Mount Vesuvius was child's play. This Indonesian giant did not just bury a city, it wiped out 3 kingdoms, Tambora, Pekat, and Sanggar, and it happened barely more than 2 centuries ago. Modern people can scarcely imagine the fury of a volcano unleashed. Tambora's reach spanned the globe, cooling the earth enough that snow fell in New England in the month of June the following year. Yes, June. Today, the mountain is a shadow of its former self. The eruption sheared off nearly half its height and obliterated the written memory of an entire culture. Tambora's society, before 1815, left virtually no record, though it had once been a prosperous community of skilled artisans and wealthy merchants. Swiss botanist Heinrich Zollinger estimated the eruption instantly killed 10,000 people. Another 37,000 on the island of Sumbawa died of starvation as ash, fire, and lava destroyed crops. On Lombok, 10,000 more died of famine and disease. In total, tens of thousands perished. The volcano spewed 120 million tons of sulfur into the atmosphere. The entire history of Tambora's civilization was reduced to ash. This is not just the story of a forgotten mountain people, it is the story of a mountain that annihilated a civilization. And it could happen again, the Yonaguni civilization. Off the coast of Japan may lie the remains of an unrecognized civilization. The greatest evidence, a massive underwater pyramid off Yonaguni Island. And not just a pyramid, a whole complex of mysterious structures. In 1986, a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake, while observing hammerhead sharks off Okinawa, stumbled upon strange formations beneath the waves that looked eerily like ancient architecture. By 1992, Japanese scientists investigated and realized they were staring at a sprawling pyramid complex. They also identified 10 additional structures nearby, plus 5 more off Okinawa. The main monument measures roughly 880 feet by 500 feet. The formations look exactly like what one would expect from a sunken city. The Yonaguni Monument, as it is called, remains one of the most controversial sites on Earth, mainly because the scientific establishment has all but ignored it. The Japanese government has done nothing to investigate, and most mainstream archaeologists avoid the subject entirely. Yet anyone who sees its perfect symmetrical lines struggles to believe it is natural. So why is a clearly existing city so controversial? Marine geologist Masaki Kimura insists the structures were man-made. Some claim they are the ruins of a long-lost civilization, possibly built by the prehistoric Jomon people, who lived in Japan as far back as 12,000 BC. Kimura argues that mainstream science simply refuses to rewrite history. The last time this region was above sea level was more than 10,000 years ago. If the Yonaguni Monument is confirmed to be part of an ancient city, it could be the oldest city in the world, older even than the biblical Jericho, a revelation that might upset certain religious groups. Many scientists dismiss it because Yonaguni resembles natural geological formations like the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. But still, if you are lucky enough to dive there and see the Yonaguni Monument with your own eyes, you might just come away with your own answer. Kumari Kandam. Kumari Kandam is the name of a legendary lost continent, said to have once stretched between India, Africa, and Australia. According to tradition, this land was originally connected to Madagascar, its northern tip touching the southern coast of India, and its eastern edge brushing against Australia. Ancient Tamil texts recount a line of kings who ruled this continent for 10,000 years before it was swallowed by the Indian Ocean. In the 2nd century epic Silapatikaram, it is written that the sea swept the land away. As the continent slowly sank, the mighty Pandya kings led their people northward into India, where they conquered the southern territories. There is little evidence to prove the legend of Kumari Kandam. One of the few traces linked to it is a formation known as Adam's Bridge. It is a chain of limestone shoals stretching about 18 miles from Sri Lanka to India. Some scientists claim it is a natural feature. Yet, when viewed through NASA satellite imagery, it appears like an artificial causeway deliberately constructed to connect the two lands. Adam's Bridge looks as though it was broken apart by a great flood, but the question remains, was it once a gateway to a lost continent, or simply a convenient crossing between Sri Lanka and India? The Mycenaean civilization. The Mycenaeans were one of the great Bronze Age civilizations, emerging around 1700 BC, reaching their peak after 2 centuries, and lasting another 200 years. They ruled mainland Greece and the Aegean Islands, deeply influenced by the Minoans. They built powerful armies, traded with Egypt and the Levant, and left behind legends of Achilles, Odysseus, and the Trojan War. The decline of Mycenae coincided with the arrival of the Sea Peoples around 1230 BC. Within 50 years, many of their cities lay in ruins. Historians believe the Sea Peoples, with their naval strength, systematically destroyed the coastal towns and island strongholds of Mycenae, bringing an end to one of the mightiest civilizations of ancient Greece. The ancient ship graveyard. They say dead ships tell no tales, but beneath the murky waters off the coast of Bulgaria, a ship graveyard whispers a story that challenges everything we thought we knew about history and even the Bible. In 2016, a team of British and Bulgarian scientists, led by Professor John Adams of the University of Southampton, set sail on the research vessel Strill Explorer. The name sounds like a pirate cruise, but this was a serious mission. Working with Bulgaria's Center for Underwater Archaeology, they deployed sonar and ROVs to survey the seafloor nearly 6,000 feet down. What they discovered were the strange ancient cousins of the Titanic. More than 60 shipwrecks were identified, scattered across an area of nearly 700 square miles. Among them, a Greek merchant vessel from 400 BC, preserved so perfectly it looked as if it had sunk only last week. Why did these ships remain intact when they should have rotted away? Because at those depths, the Black Sea has almost no oxygen. Nothing can decay or rust there. The ships simply lie undisturbed, as if waiting for a deep-sea spa day. Then never one's very for. That right mating that was. In the process, then, is a spine, and know that I very. And then came the headlines. The media, never missing a chance to stir drama, asked, could this be evidence of the Great Flood in the Bible? That sparked speculation that these ships might be far older than believed, perhaps even pre-Diluvian. Back in 2000, marine geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman proposed that the Black Sea was once a calm freshwater lake until the Mediterranean burst in after the Ice Age, like an uninvited guest with a giant fire hose. The result? A flood 200 times greater than Niagara Falls, drowning an area the size of Ireland faster than you could say start building Noah's Ark. Science has since confirmed that the Black Sea did experience a massive flood in antiquity. But do these newly discovered ruins tie into those legendary waters? Researchers must tread carefully, lean too far into conspiracy theories, and they risk losing funding. Dr. Dragomira Georgieva of the Black Sea Map Project insists the team had no intention of rewriting Genesis or uncovering Noah's blueprint. According to their data, the Black Sea did not transform overnight from a kiddie pool into an endless ocean. Instead, water levels rose slowly in the dull rhythm of geology. Yes, the flood was real, but it was gradual and far less cinematic. While some imagine a water park of destruction swallowing civilizations in a week, the evidence points to a drawn-out change. They're boring proof? Fossilized raindrop impressions in mud layers across the world, predating the so-called global flood. If Earth had once been submerged in a single catastrophic deluge, those fragile raindrop marks could never have survived. As always, theories clash. Some say it was fast, others slow. Even mainstream science has yet to agree, despite all those raindrop fossils. So what exactly did they find? No one discovered Noah's Ark. What Dr. Georgieva and her team uncovered were astonishingly preserved ancient ships, possibly linked to the sunken cities of the Black Sea. They may have been part of a vast trading fleet, carrying goods as far as Egypt or even Iceland. Or perhaps they were warships, and given the brutality of the pre-Diluvian world, seaborne conflict among ancient civilizations is more than possible. The sunken city of Olus. Off the coast of Crete lies the drowned city of Olos. The city sank about 1,800 years ago when an earthquake reshaped the landscape. Before that, Olos had thrived for roughly 1,000 years as home to an ancient Greek civilization. Archaeological evidence shows people lived there as early as the 8th century BC. The city endured through the Persian invasion of 480 BC and went on to grow into a powerful seaport. Olos connected northern Crete to other Aegean islands and to the wider Mediterranean. Underwater excavations have revealed remarkable structures, roads, building foundations, and the remains of unknown complexes. Researchers from the Department of Underwater Antiquities also uncovered fortification walls and towers that once defended the harbor. Coins minted between 330 and 280 BC were found, bearing the head of Zeus, likely the city's patron god. Little is known about Olus's governance or social order, but the city prospered until the earthquake finally dragged it beneath the sea. Part 20. Lost Egypt. The forgotten city of Heraklion has lain beneath the waters off Egypt for 2,000 years. Founded in the 12th century BC, it was linked with ancient Greece and even with Egypt's last queen, Cleopatra. Researchers believe Heraklion declined gradually before earthquakes and tsunamis destroyed it. The ground liquefied, sea levels rose, and by the 2nd century BC, most of Heraklion had already sunk. Some buildings held on for a while, but eventually, everything slid into the Mediterranean. By the time the Arabs conquered Egypt in the 8th century AD, Heraklion belonged to Poseidon. The city once stood about 20 miles from Alexandria, at the very edge of the sea. Today, it lies 30 feet below the waters of Abu Qir Bay. Before Alexandria existed, Herakleion was Egypt's shining hub, built on a cluster of islands at the mouth of the Nile Delta, all linked by canals and harbors. It was home to magnificent temples, bustling markets, and a wealthy trading port that brought immense tax revenue to Egypt. One of its greatest monuments was a temple to Khonsu, the son of Amun. Heracles also had a great temple there, and by the 4th century BC, more shrines were built to honor deities like Osiris and Isis. Since marine archaeologist Franck Gaudiot discovered the city 30 years ago, scientists have been painstakingly retrieving statues, artifacts, and ruins from the seafloor, slowly piecing together the story of a lost Egyptian civilization, the Ghana Empire and the Lion King. The Mali Empire was founded by Sundiata Keita, a man his people called the Lion King. At first, he was only the chief of a small, obscure tribe within the territory of the Ghana Empire. When Ghana began to weaken in the 13th century, the Lion King rose, gathering enough strength to subdue Ghana and establish an empire of his own. Most of what history remembers about him was passed down orally for generations, later recorded in the Epic of Sundiata. According to legend, he was the son of King Magan Khan Fata, who ruled a small region in present-day Guinea. A prophecy declared that one of Magan's descendants would rule a mighty kingdom, but for it to come true, Magan had to marry the ugliest woman of his people. This woman was heavily deformed, with a hunched back and eyes so unsettling that others could hardly bear to look at her. For the future of his people, Magan accepted marriage to the ugliest woman on earth. Years later, their son Sundiata founded the Mali Empire. Under the reign of the Lion King, Mali grew strong and prosperous, its abundant gold drawing merchants from across the world. A wave of Muslim traders flooded the capital, helping spread Islam across Africa. When he died in the year 1255, the empire endured for centuries, lasting until the 17th century, before finally being conquered by the Bamana Empire in 1670, splintering back into independent tribes. The Underwater Mysteries of Cuba. Graham Hancock is one of today's most controversial researchers, famous for his many books on human origins. Recently, he has faced sharp criticism from mainstream archaeologists for his Netflix series Ancient Apocalypse. In one of his books, Graham mentions sunken structures discovered around the world, almost all at depths no greater than 395 feet, except for one. Since the dawn of humankind, sea levels have never dropped lower than that mark. So when two researchers, Paulina Zalitsky and Paul Weinsweig, discovered ruins at a depth of 2,300 feet, the scientific community could hardly believe it. If the sea had never been that low, how could a city exist so deep underwater? Some scientists suggest tectonic activity dragged it into the abyss. Others claim it may not have been built by humans at all, but by another intelligent species that lived on Earth millions of years ago. The boldest theory of all? That it was constructed by aquatic apes. The ruins were first detected in 2001 through sonar scans, revealing a complex of structures off the coast of Pinar del Rio, Cuba. At the time, Paulina and Paul were working with the Cuban government on a marine survey, never expecting to find pyramids and stone formations at such an impossible depth. The discovery immediately sparked fierce controversy. A follow-up expedition sent down a remotely operated vehicle, capturing more sonar images that seemed to show geometric, human-like patterns. But when the findings were made public, many scientists dismissed the images outright. John Abbott, a senior editor at National Geographic, argued that no one could know for sure until divers explored the site directly. Oceanographer Robert Ballard compared reading sonar images to staring at an inkblot test. People see whatever they want to see. Most of the scientific community agrees. There is no way humans built a city at such depths. And yet, the sonar pictures unmistakably show structures off the coast of Cuba. It is a paradox. And since 2001, little to no new information has emerged. Kumari Kandam. Kumari Kandam is the name of a lost legendary continent, said to have stretched between India, Africa, and Australia. According to tradition, it was once joined with Madagascar, its northern tip touching the southern shores of India, and its eastern edge bordering Australia. Ancient Tamil texts recount a succession of kings ruling there for 10,000 years before the land sank beneath the Indian Ocean. The 2nd century epic Silappatikaram claims that the sea swallowed it whole. As the continent slowly vanished, the powerful Pandya kings led their people northward into India, conquering its southern lands. Evidence for Kumari Kandam's existence is scarce. One of the few possible traces is Adam's Bridge, a chain of limestone shoals stretching 18 miles from Sri Lanka to India. Some scientists argue it is a natural formation, yet satellite imagery from NASA makes it appear as though it was deliberately built to connect the two lands. Adam's Bridge looks as though it was shattered by a great flood. But was it once the link to a vanished continent? Or was it simply an ancient roadway between Sri Lanka and India? Ruins in the clouds. The underworld lies beneath the earth, right? Surely it could never be above the ground, or could it? At more than 1,800 meters above sea level, high in the misty plateaus of southwestern Mexico, there rises a mountain. And on its summit stand ruins that have stunned archaeologists. That mountain is Cerro de Peña, near the village of Santa Cruz Huepan in Puebla State. If you want to try pronouncing Huepan, good luck. There, local villagers and archaeologists discovered a forgotten ceremonial city built by the ancient Zapotec civilization. You may know them by their nickname, the People of the Clouds, a fitting name since they truly lived among the clouds. The remarkable thing is that this discovery was not made by a university-funded research team, but by the villagers themselves. For years, they had whispered about strange stones hidden in the mountains. In 2017, whispers turned into action. With support from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, INAH, they carved a trail through jungle and stone. After a grueling 2.5-hour climb, the summit revealed itself a city shrouded in mist, like a legendary fortress of the gods. There they found pyramids, plazas, ritual remains, and most astonishing of all, a regulation-sized ball court. Imagine playing the ancient Mesoamerican ball game atop a mountain, enveloped in heavy fog. Thrilling, yes, and also terrifying. Researcher Jose Alfredo Arellanes believes the site was reserved for the ruling elite and religious leaders, since ordinary farmers did not just decide to build temples on mountaintops. These were monumental works, forced upon common laborers by nobles who paid them in little more than corn. Amid the ruins stood 2 tall stone columns covered in carvings, sacred glyphs of the Zapotec, recording royal genealogies and epic battles. So far, 87 symbols have been identified, including horned figures, eagles, salamanders, and a female bat-like entity, perhaps a goddess or spirit of the underworld. This has led to a chilling hypothesis. The entire complex may have been dedicated to the god of death, Pitao Bezalao, the central figure of Zapotec belief, as important as Cochillo, the storm and rain god. People may have climbed the mountains solely to worship the lord of the underworld. But why atop a mountain? We usually imagine the underworld below, not above. The answer lies in the forgotten history of the Zapotecs, who thrived in Oaxaca's valleys over 2,000 years ago. They rivaled the Maya and Aztec, wielding a sophisticated writing system, advanced architecture, and a fierce resistance to invasion, until finally succumbing to Spanish conquest and disease. Today, Zapotec communities still live across Mexico, preserving elements of their language, customs, and faith. They merge Catholic saints with their ancient gods, creating a uniquely Mexican form of worship. As for Cerro de Peña, archaeologists believe the site has remained untouched since at least the 6th century AD, possibly even earlier. It is staggering that such a place went unnoticed for more than a millennium. Excavations proceed slowly, hindered by the harsh terrain. But this is only the beginning. More pyramids, more carvings, perhaps even treasures, almost certainly lie hidden in the rocks. Part 25. The Underwater Ship Graveyard. They say dead ships tell no tales, but deep beneath the murky waters off Bulgaria lies a graveyard of ancient vessels, whispering a story so extraordinary it challenges everything we thought we knew about history and even the Bible. In 2016, a team of British and Bulgarian scientists, led by Professor John Adams of the University of Southampton, boarded the research vessel Strill Explorer. The name sounds like a pirate cruise, but the mission was dead serious. In collaboration with the Bulgarian Center for Underwater Archaeology, they went all in. Deploying sonar and remotely operated vehicles, they surveyed the seabed nearly 2,000 meters below. What they found resembled ancient cousins of the Titanic, more than 60 shipwrecks scattered across an area of over 1,800 square kilometers, including a Greek merchant ship from around 400 BC, preserved so well it looked as though it had sunk just last week. Why were the ships still intact, instead of rotted away? Because the deep Black Sea is almost entirely devoid of oxygen. Nothing down there can decay wood or corrode metal, so the ships lie frozen in time, as if awaiting a spa day beneath the waves. Then the story took a sensational turn. The media, never missing a chance to dramatize, splashed headlines. Could this be proof of the biblical Great Flood? Suddenly, speculation swirled that the ships might be far older than expected, perhaps even from the pre-flood world itself. Back in 2000, marine geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman proposed that the Black Sea had once been a calm freshwater lake, until the Mediterranean burst in after the Ice Age like an uninvited guest with a fire hose. The result? A deluge 200 times more powerful than Niagara Falls, flooding an area the size of Ireland faster than you could say, "Time to start building Noah's Ark." Science has confirmed that the Black Sea did undergo a massive flood in antiquity. But could the mysterious ruins recently discovered there be linked to these ships? Scholars tread carefully, wary of being accused of conspiracy theories and losing funding. Dr. Dragomira Georgieva of the Black Sea Map Project insists the team never intended to rewrite Genesis or crack the blueprints of the Ark. Their data show no evidence of a sudden, catastrophic rise. Instead, the waters crept upward slowly, at the dull pace of geology. There was a flood, yes, but a slow, uneventful one. While the public imagines a giant water park swallowing civilizations in a week, science paints a picture of gradual transformation. Researchers even have boring evidence to back this up. Fossilized raindrops preserved in mudstone across the world, predating the supposed Great Flood. Had Earth truly been drowned in one global wave, such delicate marks could never have survived. As always, theories clash. Some argue the flood was fast, others slow. Even mainstream scientists cannot agree, despite the raindrop fossils. So, what did they actually find? No, it was not Noah's Ark. What Dr. Georgieva and her team uncovered were astonishingly well-preserved ancient ships, likely tied to the sunken cities of the Black Sea. They might once have been part of a vast trading fleet, hauling goods as far as Egypt or even Iceland. Or perhaps they were a naval armada, for given the brutality and corruption of the pre-flood world, constant warfare between ancient civilizations would have been no surprise at all. Stone circles in Wales. It feels different here. You think you've seen it all. Ancient churches, castles, Stonehenge. Then you hike up a hillside in Wales, lungs burning after the climb, fully expecting to find nothing but sheep, and then suddenly it hits you, straight in the soul. By the way, this is Wales, so get ready for names you'll have a hard time pronouncing. Sorry in advance. Before you lies the Moyalt Techaf stone circle, perched high above the village of Llandrillo, nestled among the Welsh hills. This ancient cluster of stones is not exactly a tourist attraction. It feels more like a gateway into eternity. It radiates mystery, and it isn't alone. Nearby, 2 Neolithic tombs rest, placed here since the dawn of ceremonial burials. Of them, Taylor's is the most striking, exuding solemn grandeur and an ancient confidence. Archaeologists believe it may date back to the early Bronze Age, around 2,000 years before Christ, give or take, a sacrificial sheep. It may not be the oldest monument around, but it is certainly one of the most fascinating, technically speaking, and archaeologists love technicalities. Moyodi Ushav is most likely a ring cairn rather than a classic stone circle. What's the difference? One is a mystical gathering place, the other is just as mystical, but with a burial at its heart. The central depression, known as Teushaft, suggests it once held a burial mound. The circle spans about 12 meters, made up of 41 alternating large and small stones set with uncanny precision, like a kind of Morse code laid down by Druidic priests. A clear gap opens to the southeast, likely an entrance, while to the northeast and southwest, 2 massive stones lie sprawled like lazy giants who couldn't be bothered to stand. Every feature fits a ring cairn, not a stage for dancing druids. In fact, it isn't a perfect circle at all, but a pentagon, 5 sides forming a circle, with 1 stone placed outside. In the ancient world, the number 5 was tied to Venus. Seen from Earth, Venus appears to draw near about 5 times in 8 years before repeating its cycle. The ability to notice this is astonishing, and that's only scratching the surface. We could talk about this place all day, but let's sum it up. Standing inside Teushaft doesn't feel like visiting ruins. It feels like eavesdropping on eternity. The air carries a faint charge, a quiet hum, as if the stones whisper to one another and you've stumbled in wearing a raincoat. The view stretches far, folding valleys, fields, and skies together, like a watercolor painting, blurred by rain. And somewhere in that beauty, you feel something both unsettling and profound, small, yet infinite. 4,000 years ago, people stood on this very hilltop, gazing at the same horizon and feeling the same force. The sensation was powerful enough for them to raise this mighty monument, and you're left to wonder, who built this place? What did they believe? What mystery still lingers in the air? No one knows, and that's half the wonder. Your only task is to explore, touch the grass, and imagine what it might have felt like back then. The pyramid in the ice. Antarctica hides a mystery so bizarre it once broke the internet. Rising out of the endless ice fields of the Ellsworth Mountains is a sharp peak, uncannily symmetrical, so much so that people believe it to be an ancient pyramid. It truly looks like a lost sibling of Egypt's pyramids. When photos of this peak hit the internet in 2016, the web erupted. Claims of lost civilizations, aliens, even a secret Nazi base. Meanwhile, scientists simply pulled off their glasses and sighed. Guys, it's just a mountain. If the Washans and Everwation and Teleni spective the Malsavation. The peak lies in a region discovered in 1935 by American aviator Lincoln Ellsworth, hence the range bears his name. Since then, the area has yielded fossils 500 million years old, making it one of Antarctica's most valuable scientific treasures. But this particular peak, it's different. It boasts 4 crisp, symmetrical faces, as if a geometry-obsessed giant had carved it with hammer and ruler. Scientists insist it's the result of millions of years of freeze-thaw erosion, shaping the rock into natural symmetry. Still, not everyone is convinced. Some believe it was built by a lost civilization. Others whisper that the US military has a doomsday bunker inside. Still, bolder claims say the pyramid predates all known cultures. Whatever the truth, Antarctica remains one of the strangest places on Earth. Beneath its ice lie hidden lakes, ancient microbes, and data that may reveal how life could exist on distant moons like Europa. No one has found a Temple of Stargate builders yet, but nature has given us a mountain impressive enough to leave anyone speechless. The forgotten city of Kibira, Anatolia, in modern Turkey, has long been the cradle of civilizations predating the rise of Rome and the spread of Christianity. It was a crossroads of power, where forces from the ancient Hittites to the Greeks fought for dominance. So the fact that forgotten cities still linger in its rugged mountains should surprise no one. One of the most remarkable discoveries is Kibira, with ruins lying near today's town of Gulhisar. Its history spans over 2,000 years. Originally, a small settlement founded by Lydians from Europe, the city shifted locations twice before finally settling around the 3rd century before Christ. At first, they built on the plains, but soon realized the hills offered a commanding view over the western pastures and control of the mighty Akda Mountains. This spot made the city easier to defend and allowed its culture to thrive. Over time, Kibira grew into a major urban center. The historian Strabo wrote of its complex legal system, proof that it had a sophisticated judiciary. With law and order came political strength and economic wealth. But times changed. In 84 before Christ, the Roman general Lucius Licinius Murena destroyed Kibira during the First Mithridatic War. When Rome rose as master of the world, no city was allowed to remain independent. Many were killed, many fled. By 23 after Christ, an earthquake leveled what remained, leaving it completely abandoned. The cave temples of the Himalayas. In a remote corner of the Himalayas, mysterious caves are carved into sheer cliffs. They've existed for thousands of years, so high that no one had ever set foot inside until 2007, when a team of scientists and climbers finally reached them. The caves lie in Upper Mustang, once known as the Kingdom of Mustang, a land with a rich Tibetan culture. From the 15th to the 17th century, Mustang controlled the vital trade route between the Himalayas and India. Nepal annexed Mustang in the 18th century, but locals still see themselves as a separate nation. The region remained closed to outsiders until 1992, preserving both its traditions and its landscapes. It wasn't until 2008 that Mustang officially lost its kingdom status. Today, outside influences, especially from China, are reshaping a land preserved for centuries. As for the caves, there are more than 10,000 man-made chambers carved into valley walls and mountainsides. Many hold partially mummified human remains more than 3,000 years old. Research is still in its infancy, and no one knows who built them or what. Part 30. Rome's Mountain Gods. Not long ago, a hiker crossing the Swiss Alps stumbled upon an ancient Roman coin. Hiking, in this case, meant a grueling trek through mountains, not a casual stroll. After alerting local authorities, archaeologists climbed the mountain to investigate. What they uncovered was astonishing. The traces of what they believe may have been a mountaintop shrine where Romans offered gifts to their gods. The discovery was made in 2020, but excavations didn't begin until 2022. Within a year, a team from Bern, Switzerland, unearthed 100 coins, 27 rock crystals, 59 hobnails from shoes, and various other relics. Finding a stray Roman coin in the Alps isn't unusual. It could simply be something dropped by an ancient traveler. But here, the sheer number was striking. According to lead researcher Regula Guler, the unusually large hoard strongly suggests a place of worship. What's shocking is its remoteness, far from any settlements, not a spot you could visit on a casual day trip. In Roman times, reaching this site would have taken weeks away from daily life. The suspected shrine lies at about 2,590 meters, between the Ammertenhorn and Wildstrubel peaks. Though no temple ruins have been found, the sheer quantity of coins and artifacts makes archaeologists believe it was a pilgrimage site, a place where Romans climbed into the clouds to feel closer to their mysterious gods. The forgotten city of Karen. Hidden in the mighty mountain ranges of Central Asia lies a mysterious archaeological site, often called the Machu Picchu of Tajikistan, the forgotten city of Karen. This ancient place sits in a wilderness so remote it is almost impossible to imagine humans ever lived here. No paved roads, mountain ridges stretching to the horizon, almost no sign of life, population density, about 1 person per square mile. The mountains here are so vast and empty that no one even stumbled across Karen until recently. The city was only discovered in 2012, when archaeologist Yusufsho Yakubov found it. Although the Pamir region looks barren and desolate, Humans have inhabited this part of Tajikistan for thousands of years. Scattered across the mountains are temples from forgotten ages, shrines and sanctuaries, built by people whose names have been erased, for gods no one remembers. Inside, Karen lies what is believed to be the only surviving Zoroastrian water temple in all of Central Asia, dating back about 4,000 years. The city also holds the ruins of a crumbled fortress, perhaps once a palace, along with other decayed structures. Sitting in the highlands not far from Afghanistan's border, Karen is unlikely to gain fame like Machu Picchu anytime soon. We don't even know who built it, only that it belonged to a lost ancient culture. Part 32. The Ruins of Lost Ranch. Just outside Phoenix, Arizona, lies a little-known ruin with a mysterious past. Perched safely on a high ridge within South Mountain Park, it overlooks the wide, dusty desert below. Locals call it Lost Ranch, but few know where it truly came from. Today, almost nothing remains beyond a few fragments of crumbling brick walls and an old fireplace. It looks like the skeleton of a house, but from what era? Perhaps it was built in the 1950s as a secret mountain cabin, or maybe 100 years earlier, by pioneers pushing westward. Some say it was once a retreat for Hollywood's naturist elite. Others claim it was the remains of a failed mountain resort. Still others insist it was just a mining camp abandoned after prospectors failed to strike gold. The truth is a bit less romantic. Between 1933 and 1940, about 4,000 workers labored in South Mountain Park camps as the state carved hiking and horseback trails, transforming the area into a safe, inviting destination. This ruin may well be one of those camps, or perhaps the shattered remains of a speakeasy destroyed during Prohibition. Şanlıurfa. Şanlıurfa is a heritage site in Turkey, home to the ruins of the legendary kingdom of Edessa, which thrived 2,000 years ago. Edessa began as a mountain city, founded by the great king Seleucus, the first Nicator, in the late 4th century before Christ. Seleucus was also the founder of the mighty Seleucid Empire. As the Seleucid Empire expanded, Edessa quickly rose to become the capital of its own kingdom. But after Rome conquered the Seleucids, around 212 after Christ, the city was absorbed as a Roman colony. Later, Edessa blossomed into a center of Christian scholarship, and during the Crusades, it served as a base for the Knights Templar. The ancient city was not truly destroyed until the late Crusader era, after the siege of Edessa in 1144. Today, the archaeological site contains a vast necropolis. Archaeologists have identified more than 130 rock-cut tombs dating back to Edessa's earliest days. These tombs were hewn into the mountainside, carved from solid stone, and sealed with the bodies of the dead inside. Many of the tombs hold the remains of local residents, while others clearly date from after Rome absorbed Edessa as a colony. The immense necropolis is known as the Kizil Koyun Necropolis, lying on the edge of modern-day Urfa, which was built directly on top of ancient Edessa, the lost civilization of Doggerland. When the Ice Age ended, a great melting began. For over 10,000 years, the glaciers covering the Earth slowly receded. As they did, sea levels rose relentlessly, swallowing vast tracts of land, including a once-inhabited territory in the North Sea known as Doggerland. This land once connected England to Europe. About 18,000 years ago, England, Ireland, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Belgium were all joined by solid ground. By around 9,000 before Christ, Ireland had already split into an island, though England still remained linked to France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Many researchers believe a civilization once thrived here, and around 10,000 before Christ, there may have been another culture farther north, in what is now the North Sea off Denmark. But as the seas rose, England separated from the mainland, and Doggerland disappeared beneath the waves. So is there any proof people once lived here? Throughout the 19th century, fishermen kept dredging up strange bones remains of bears, woolly mammoths, and woolly rhinoceroses, creatures hard to imagine lying at the bottom of the sea. Even more striking, these bones were not fossilized. They simply rested on the seabed, as if the animals had been wiped out suddenly, perhaps by a catastrophic flood. Today, one leading theory suggests Doggerland may be the true location of Atlantis, lost 12 to 14,000 years ago. The ruins of a city may still be buried deep beneath the North Sea, waiting to be found. In the early 20th century, author James Churchward published a series of books about a lost continent, where he believed an ancient civilization once flourished. According to him, while stationed as a British soldier in India, he befriended a temple priest who revealed a set of mysterious stone tablets. These tablets, the priest claimed, were written in a dead language called Naga Maya, carved by a vanished people whose land had sunk beneath the ocean. Churchward believed he had translated the tablets into English. In his book's works, he insisted were science, not fiction. He recorded their stories of Earth's creation and of a superior human race. He called them the Nayakal, claiming they first appeared about 50,000 years ago. According to Churchward, the continent of Mu once held 64 million people, living in 7 great cities, united under one government and one religion. Their prosperity lasted until 12,000 years ago, when Mu suddenly sank beneath the sea. The disaster struck in a single night, not only from rising waters, but also from volcanic eruptions and earthquakes that tore the land apart. There is little scientific evidence to support the existence of Mu or the Neakal, but Churchward insisted Mu lay in the Pacific Ocean, and that its survivors became the ancestors of great civilizations like Egypt, India, and the Maya. He even claimed the last king of Mu was named Ra, the very source of the Egyptian sun god's name. Churchward argued that since all civilization stemmed from Mu, it is no wonder certain symbols appear everywhere. For example, the Eye of Ra can be found across multiple continents,